join me in welcoming Esther Weinberg.
All right. So I have to tell you, first of all, I love being in a crowd of folks that you live and breathe learning and talent development every single day. And I feel very fortunate every day to be able to work with folks just like you. And I have to say that the theme of the conference of Lead the Way could not be more timely. And I don't need to tell you this, but we are living in a time where there is so much disruption. Like you can't pick up any kind of news feed without seeing something implode or explode or something. Technology, AI, talent shortages, talent abundance, hybrid environments on steroids, and we have public and private sector complexities, and none of it is waiting for us to catch up. Don't you wish, like at some point you could hit the pause button and it would just slow down for us? But it's not. But leading, I will say, so I find so interesting is that organizations look to you, don't they? To embed the change, to embed the culture. You're the ones that your companies look towards. May not feel that way every day, but you're the ones. You got that burden of responsibility, and I know you take it very seriously. And the thing is that leading the way doesn't just have to do with showing people where to go. It also has to do with leading ourselves first. And leading ourselves has everything to do also with how you see. Because how we see shapes everything. It shapes what's possible and what's not possible. And I have to say, think about this. Every single day you make interpretations. You do, right? What's possible, what's feasible, what programs should we do today? What do employees want? What do they need? You make interpretations. And what does my leaders want? Try to interpret that on a daily basis. Exactly, you need a code book just for that, right? And it's not easy to understand it. Excuse me. So I'm curious, how many of you in this room, by a show of hands, made a sudden judgment about a person, a situation, or a leader this week? All right, every hand should be up. Every hand should be up in this room. So what you did was very simple. You did what I call is you had an opinion. You made an assessment. Sounds simple, right? Now, it's human. We make them instantly. When we make them based on our experience, our expertise, what we know, we're leaning on our subject matter expertise and the kind of leader we've been in all of our career, right? We've got a body of work that supports the decisions we're making, right? Now leading the way, as I said before, begins with leading ourselves first, but it really begins with how we see, how we speak, and how we make meaning. It's not a small thing that we're talking about. Now, if you think about it, when organizations talk about leading the way, how do they do that? Come on down. They often rush to new actions, new programs, new tools, new strategies, and new initiatives, right? And that's where the OR model comes in. Let me introduce you to this model. I love this model. So when most of us, we're in a results-oriented life and business. And when we don't like our results, what do? Right, well, what do we change? We change the actions, right? Change the actions. We work harder, we shift resources, we try a new initiative, we do a new thing. But here's the thing, actions don't live in a vacuum. They come from somewhere. Where do they actually come from? So the OR model is a simple way to see that actually where our actions come from is our observer that shapes our actions, and those actions the observer creates the actions that create the results. So instead of going back to try to change new actions, what we really need is a new observer. So this is how we lead the way in times of change. What we really need is a new way of seeing, and language is one of the most powerful ways to actually do that. Now I'm curious, how many of you in this room, legit, have changed your actions, but the results were the same? Yeah, it's kind of like New Year's Eve resolutions. Does that happen to you? Like, I wanted to lose 10 pounds. I'm still 10 pounds heavier. Actually, I got 5 more on, right? Where did that come from? So one of the clearest entry points into shifting how we see is understanding the distinction between two distinctions called assessments and assertions that Mike mentioned before. And let me share with you what I'm talking about. So, assertions describe our world. Assessments create it. And assertions are facts. They often live in the past or the present, and they don't shift with our mood. But our assessments do, right? Their judgments, their opinions. Just think of it. If an assertion, an example of that would be, it's 70 degrees in here. Well, I don't have the thermostat, I'm making this stuff up. But let's say it's an assertion. well, I'll say it this way. There's 70 chairs in here. You can actually count to see if there's legitimately 70 chairs in here. That is a fact. A passport demonstrates, it says, I'm a citizen of whatever country that I'm a citizen of. That is an absolute third-party verifiable fact. An assessment is if I say, oh, it's cold in here, or oh, it's warm. If it's cold, all of a sudden it has a feeling, it has an emotion. I go get a jacket. If it's hot, I may take if I had a sweater, a cardigan, I may take that off. It creates some kind of action. Now, neither is bad, but assessments, if they're left unexamined, quietly run the show. So I want to practice this with you for a minute. So here's what I'd love you to do. So I want you to, when I tell you to in a minute, I want you to turn to the person on your left. Now this is going to be interesting because not every seat is filled. So you're going to have to be artful. So I'm going to ask you to turn to the person on your left, and you're going to share with the person an assertion about the room. A fact about the room. It could be that there's 4 screens, whatever that may be, okay? But I want you to share a fact, a third-party verifiable fact about the room. Then the second person is going to share an assessment about the room. There's a lot of windows, okay? The room is spacious. The room is cramped. Whatever that assessment, the room is cold, the room is warm, whatever that assessment is for you, okay? Now, I don't want you to spend a lot of time going, you want to go first, you want to go first. So I want you to look down and say the person with the sassiest shoes is the person that's going to be the assertions. Sassy shoe person is going to share the facts, and the non-sassy person will share the assessments. All right? Everybody go. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. It's going to be really fast. Assertion, assessment. All right, everybody, let's stop. Let's stop. Let's stop. All right. So here's what I'd like to do. I would love to just have a few people shout out. You know, for all my, I love being in a room of learning people because it's like, shout out, that's called chaos, right? But I just want you to shout out assertions. What assertions did you say? Shout it out. Go ahead.
3 couches.
3 couches. I love it. What about 6 cameras? How many cameras?
6.
Ooh, that's keen observation. All right. What else you got? 1 teleprompter. Right. What else you got? 12 overhead lights. I love this. Very astute crowd. I love it. What about assessments?
It's well lit.
It's well lit. It's warm. What else you got? Exposed. Space. Exposed. Space. Yes. What else? Comfortable. Michael loved that it's comfortable. Yes. Easy to read and follow along. I love it. So here's the thing. The thing about assessments is you notice how assessments create color. Like as you start sharing assessments, all of a sudden they start creating a story, they create color, and they also create what's possible. Now, let me make this a little bit more explicit, because you're probably like, that sounds interesting, but so what, now what, okay? So let me tell you about a client of mine, a woman named Teresa. Teresa was the head of HR at an engineering company their goal was to double in size in the next 3 years. Because I want to make this a very practical example for you to understand the power of assessments and assertions. So the company had a goal of doubling in size in the next 3 years. So Teresa had the title. She was the head of HR for this company. She had the power, technically, and she had the position. She had the trust of the CEO and the trust of the executive team. But what do you think was really going on, since I'm bringing this up in this way about Teresa? She often felt stuck behind the scenes. She felt that she was carrying conversations that nobody else would really have. You're nodding because you know what that's like? Yeah. How many of you know what that's like to have a conversation no one else would have? Yeah. So she's holding the emotional weight of every decision. Just imagine that. And constantly questioning whether her voice really mattered in the room. So this is what her language sounded like. Now, this language was not external language, but it was really loud inside. So she said, if I assert myself too strongly, I'll lose their trust. It's easier to stay behind the scenes than to risk being taken too seriously. So on the outside, look at my fabulous suit. On the outside, you look like all very composed and polished. But on the inside, it was something else. So, but under the surface, she was this. She was frustrated, she was resigned, and she was afraid of being misunderstood or not being seen as credible. Now, some of you may know what that feels like, to be in a room where you believe your voice should be heard, but it's not. Does that ever happen to anybody? Yeah. Yeah. So Teresa was a champion for everybody. She's an amazing woman. She's a champion for everybody else. But she held space for for everybody else's growth, but what she wasn't holding space was for her power, for what was possible. And so the first thing we actually did, it was interesting because what shifted for Teresa wasn't because she learned a new leadership strategy. It wasn't because she had like the 4 steps to having confidence or the 8 steps to doing this, right? What she did was, and when we started working together, we didn't start working on her having a new strategy. We started turning the lens to understand the distinctions for her between what were her assertions versus what was her assessments that she was living inside of. Because the assessments she was living inside of was creating a reality that she didn't really want. But you know when you live in a reality that you don't want, but you know how to make it different? And that's exactly what she was in the middle of. So we started to unpack her assertions versus her assessments. So what were they? So she started to name what was driving her: fear, frustration, resignation, like what I was talking about, afraid that if she actually voiced what was really going on for her, that she'd lose credibility and people wouldn't really listen. And so she was shrinking. And you know, you actually don't understand that when you're in a room and you shrink, you actually physically start shrinking when you start talking. You don't know it because you don't have a camera on yourself, but you do start shrinking. You've probably seen it in other people. So when we started, and I have to tell you, Teresa's this amazing trained performer. She can get on stage with thousands of people. I've seen YouTube videos of her. She's the most amazing thing on the planet. She gets out, she belts out in front of thousands of people. And she said to me, why is that person on the stage not showing up in the executive rooms? Where's that person? Where'd they go? Why are they out to lunch? Right? So what we did was she started realizing that her interpretations about power, control, likability, credibility was actually what was getting in her way. She wasn't being dismissed by other people, she was withholding. Now what changed was amazing. So here's what she started doing. So through our work together, she began delegating more, moving from the fixer of the day so she could focus on being the strategic partner that the company actually needed. And she started speaking up in executive team meetings with clarity and courage, and something amazing happened. People listened and they followed. Now, this is not a small thing. I talked to Teresa yesterday. Tel've never seen her so happy before. And in fact, she said to me, she works for a CEO who's kind of gruff. She was telling me the story, runs into her office, he's like, so T, listen, we gotta make sure that you're not so stressed. And she literally said to him, this would never have come out of her mouth before, knowing what I just told you. She said, Dave, you know what's stressing me out? You. Nothing else is stressing me out, but you are. So why don't you turn around, walk back out, and I'll be fine. And I can continue what I'm doing right now. And you know what he said? All right. And he left. It was amazing. It was like a miracle. So now she's not hiding in plain sight anymore. Now she's being the credible voice. Now she moved from being an HR operator to being the strategic voice that the company needed. And she said to me the other day, she said this, which I think is just so amazing, that I no longer feel like I'm waiting to be invited to the table. I'm already there. Now that is gold. That is money in the bank. Can you imagine feeling every day like this? So I want this to be practical for you, because I promised Mike that if I was going to come and speak, I want you to actually have tools that you can walk away with and do things with. So here's what I'd like you to do. So if you got something to write with, now's the time to take it out. Do you think it's like a keynote? I'm going to talk to you, but I want you to do things, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to think of a real situation at work, something that it's something that may be either in your way or it's just something that's causing perhaps a bit of tension. Why don't we think of it that way? Or it could be anything. I'm going to leave it narrow and open for you to decide. And let me give you some examples. Let's think of it. It could be you're preparing to present a talent strategy to the executive team. It could be that a leader is resisting a new initiative that you're trying to implement. It could be that you've been asked to launch an L&D program and some of the key stakeholders are not really fully on board. Whatever it may be, I'm going to leave that up to you. I want you to write down 1 to 3 assertions, verifiable facts, right, like we've talked about, and I just want you to write 1 to 3 of them. Then I want you, stream of consciousness, to write down your assessments. What do you make it mean? So I'll give you an example. What do you make it mean? It could be, I'm launching this learning and this L&D strategy, and on Tuesday, and these executives don't typically buy in. But what I make it mean is that, why waste my time? We don't have budget anyway. Why am I spinning my wheels? This is the 4th thing that I've done for you all. Why is it that I'm in this position again? Why didn't I set the stage beforehand? What's wrong with me that I don't set expectations normally in my life to make sure people follow it? You see where I'm going? That's what I want you to do. Okay? I'll give you 5 minutes. Please begin. All right, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Remember I told you to turn to your left? Now I'm going to ask you to turn to your right. Okay? So here's the way it's going to look. You're going to pair up with someone, and I want you to share your one assessment, the one that you circled. And all I want your partner to ask you is this simple question: what might be equally true? They'll never accept that I'm a strategic partner. Well, what else may be equally true here? And I'll let you know when to switch. But do that, and each person will get a chance, and then let's see what emerges. Okay? Everybody willing? Enable? All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to turn to the person on your right, but you're not looking for sassy shoes this time, because I don't want to exhaust you. You're going to look for the most colorful shirt. That person will go first. All right? Please begin. I'll tell you when to switch. All right, everybody. Let's start wrapping up. I mean to yell at you, Leah. Okay. All right. All right, my dear friends. What I'd love to do is I'd love to hear from a few people. So who would be open to share what your situation is and what your one assessment is and the conversation with your partner? So let's have we're all friends, confidential environments here. So I'd love to hear from 1 or 2 people. So let's start with 1. Okay. Who'd be willing to share first? Yes. Oh, what's your first name? Teresa.
Just like your...
Yeah. Look at you.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
If she's not a plant. I promise.
Is this better? Or
Yes.
Okay. So I lead digital transformation and generally organizational transformation. The buzzword here, everybody knows. I want to hear you guys say it. What?
AI.
Hey, there we go.
I got my AI.
All right. So we have 26 projects that are touching AI right now.
Wow.
And I'm leading the charge. So everything's under kind of this general organizational initiative for efficiency. My feeling is my leaders created these projects to reduce budget, not necessarily for efficiency.
Everyone's like, that's good. That's good. That's a good one, right? That's a good one.
All right. So I don't have any, usually as part of projects, I know what our end headcount goals are. I know what the end kind of delivery status budget we're looking to reduce. I don't have any of that associated with 20 of my projects. So our thought process was, next step is to sit with my sponsor, right? And just have a really candid conversation about what I'm feeling and address if he might have some numbers in mind or what he's thinking. And then ultimately we need to sit down with all of my kind of executive sponsors and have a thoughtful kind of long-term 3-year visioning strategy. Because when I went to the vision, like as change management sponsorship, what's your vision? It was, I don't know what that looks like. Who knows what AI is going to bring us?
And what did you make that mean?
deep down inside,
Yes.
you aren't the person who should be leading this project.
And let me, well, it sounds like an assertion, but it's very much an assessment. And what becomes available to you if you see that this person shouldn't be leading it? What limits your view?
What limits my view?
Yeah, if you say this person, not Mike, but
Right.
this person should not be leading it, what then happens to how you're now going to move forward?
Okay, so this is where I'm very lucky. I have a great, amazing relationship with my CEO and lunch once a week with him, which is not formal. So I think it becomes a, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what, without selling that person out, help me understand how I can support them or help them grow. And if I feel strongly about it, then it becomes kind of the soft conversation of, I don't think this person's right, or I don't think I'm right. Maybe we should hire an external company for this.
Well, I love this. Thank you, Teresa. Don't sit down yet.
Oh.
So let me ask you all this, because we're talking about assessments and assertions, right? And I know you all were like, amen, sister, right? But I wonder, what else do you think could be true to her situation, given what she just laid out? What else do you think may be happening?
There could be an opportunity for L&D to set the path in the sense of how the company is going to adopt it.
Okay, great. Love that.
Yeah.
Her speaking engagement's coming this afternoon. Okay, all right. Yes, great. Very well said. What else do you think could be true?
Nobody knows what's going on anywhere when nobody has a clue.
Or in the world.
Well, it could be. Another thing that could be true is that many people, you can't say everybody, are very scared about AI and very intimidated. And as much as we're adopting it, some of us are, not me, but some of us are adopting it kicking and screaming, and we're terrified of the job losses. Because if you look at the last 2 weeks, the job reports is terrifying. And wait till the government opens, and then we have actual data. So when you start digging into the assessments, thank you, Teresa. Now you can sit, thank you. Thank you so dearly. The reason why I ask you what else might be true is because if you continue to see it that, for example, this person doesn't know what the hell they're doing, we don't have the right leadership, there's no budget, it's how I'm feeling about it, it's going to take you down one path. And then that becomes the path that you will go down. But there's many other paths. There are many other reasons or circumstances, and everyone has their own package of whatever is happening for them. So thank you, Teresa. Who else wants to share? You got to follow that. All right? All right. Who else wants to share? We'll take one more. Come on, it wasn't that hard. I got till 11. All right. All right, Leah.
I don't think I need a mic.
All right.
Thank you, Mike, for the mic. Appreciate that. Hi there, Leah Karuba. Hey, everyone.
Oh,
the dropper stuff.
it's okay. I got it. I got you.
So we're working on a boot camp. Came up last month, very quickly. Oh, by the way, we have probably 200 people for this session, and my assessment is that it's going to fail to impact the learning. It's going to fail to. It's going to be fast. The SMEs are not going to do a good job of engagement. They're going to cram a lot of product information at a group of people who are already overwhelmed, our sales teams, and it's going to fail. But I really liked the question, what might be equally true?
And what did you come to?
Well, we have a week before we launch. So now that I've thought about it, we can actually step in and have those conversations and put in some engagement points and really work with the SMEs to understand what the outcomes and results should be.
And how different do you think the session's going to be now that she's coming from that perspective? And how many people in this room want to come? See, Mike? Okay, all right. So, thank you, Leah. Let's give her a round of applause, too. Okay. So I want to be clear about something. For example, did Teresa's situation change? Did Leah's situation change? No. But what happens is that potentially, because I would say what you shifted was the actions that are potentially available for you. other pathways. And that's what we call, not to steal Mike's thunder, self-agency. That's real self-agency, when I can facilitate more doorways to be open for myself. So here's what you just experienced. Language just doesn't describe reality, it actually creates reality. And when you shift your language, you shift your stance. And when you shift your stance, you open up entirely new futures, ones that you may never have thought was possible. And if you continue to practice this concept around assessments and assertions, you'll get it even deeper. And for talent development leaders, this distinction isn't theoretical. It's not theoretical because it shapes how you influence, how you design programs, shapes how you strategize, the ideas that you give other people and what's available. And it starts with seeing your own assessments clearly. And we all have them. Me too. Okay, we all have them. So today we focused on one domain, and that domain was language. But language doesn't live in a vacuum. Language lives with our moods. And if you think your culture doesn't have a mood, each of us has got moods. Cultures, teams, organizations have moods. So language doesn't live outside of our moods, our emotions, and our bodies. Bodies, our neurology, our biology, the way that we respond and react. I mean, the session today is not about that, but I think you get what I'm talking about. And so your organization looks to you in times of uncertainty. They do. They look for you to embed the change, to lead it, and to teach it. And isn't that fun? Because it begins with how you lead you first. Like instead of us moving so fast to do all these initiatives, it's like, wait a second, what are my assertions and what are my assessments right now about this? Because that'll shape what's possible. When you shift your language, you shift everything. You really do. And you then lead the way for you, your leadership, your teams, and like I said, what's possible. And because you spend so much time serving others, I really wanted to make sure that, number one, when you left today, you not only had our session and the concepts that we're talking about today, but that you also had a tool that you can walk away with to continue the reflection and the learning. So if you would be so kind as to take out your phones, if you scan this QR code, this is a reflection guide, a guide that helps you with great questions that can have you deepen all that we talked about for today. I mean, we got 50 minutes. We can't do more than that, right? And so I want to make sure that you have a lot more tools because it's on your shoulders. And I know what that feels like. And so I want to make sure you've got the tools to be able to do that. Not just you providing the tools for the other people, but you doing it for you. And within the document too, just for you to know, alert ahead, when you scan through the document, towards the end, you'll also see a powerful opportunity for you and I to connect and a way that we can work together. And I would really welcome a conversation because it's been such a delight to get to know you today. And I'll be here today, so I'm really excited for us to get to know each other better. So I'll just say this, the moment you shift your language for yourself, everything you build for you and others change. And then what opens, the door of possibility that will open and what's available to you is absolutely limitless. And that's what I hope that you're leaving with today. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you, everyone.